everyone has that one friend who's into conspiracy theories or has this deep take on life that when you guys are hanging out, they share it with the group no matter how many times they've shared it. Kind of like you're just hanging out with your friend and he's like, hey, starts rambling about Alex Jones and you're like, yeah, yeah, we get it. We don't know how, but the water's making the frogs gay. We get it. My partner has one, and every time we're talking about the bad boy Joey Janela, he just says Tony Khan missed a big money feud with Joey Janela, and then we leave it at that. We don't dive deeper. The last time we were talking about the Nick Wayne Joey Janela Iron Man match, he again said Tony Khan missed a big money feud with Joey Janela. And that's when it finally hit me. I'm like, dude, he said this like 20 times now. We got to do an episode where he explains the booking decision that Tony Khan could have made for a money feud with Joey Janela. Before we get to him explaining this theory, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the page. If you are a fan of the bad boy Joey Janela like we are, all right, tagging my partner in now. So what is this money feud that Tony Khan could have ran with Joey Janela?
Well, before I get into that, the conspiracy theory I have with Janela and AEW is Tony Khan used him for clout with the indie wrestling fans and had no real plans
Intention?
for him. Yeah. So that's one. I'll never forgive Tony Khan for not using Joey Janela. I don't care about the CM Punk backstage thing or forcing Sting to call you out during his retirement ceremony. But my idea is they could have had a money making feud if you would have gave us Joey Janela versus Chris Jericho. And I just love a storyline of an 80s rock star trying to out party a new era fuckboy party boy. I mean, that's a storyline I think we could all get behind. And then basically, my idea for it is if you replace MJF and his feud with Jericho and just put Janela in there, I think that whole feud works a lot better. You know, MJF and Jericho did a skit where they had a dinner musical or something. I don't know what it was about. They were singing and dancing, but you could have done skits where Jericho is like, "Oh, you got to come out with me, and I'll show you how to party." And they go to some like bar where Jericho's doing karaoke. There's a bunch of old rockers in there. Maybe you get some old rockers, like I don't know, Nikki Six. Is that a guy?
D.
Is
Snyder.
he still alive? D. Snyder, yeah. And then you do a skit where he kind of tries
What was
out
Jeff Jarrett's?
uh,
Uh,
Jeff
Je-
Jarrett's old
when
rock
he was
star,
yeah when he was what did he go by back then?
Double J.
Double J, and then he had
Yeah,
what was Road Dog's name? The
the
Roadie.
roadie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
have
yeah.
those
Put
guys
them
up
in the
there.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
at the party. Yeah, everyone's passed out. But maybe he out parties Janela, and then the next week Janela could come back and be like, "Oh, you got to come out with me, old man, and I'll show you how to be a rock star." And there's dudes drinking Four Locos and doing crazy stuff. I think that's a skit that kind of would have got over better than that singing and dancing. And then of course you got to settle it with a match. I'd have Janela steal the win with like a roll up or something. So now you have Jericho chase him one to get his win back and prove he's actually a better wrestler than Janela. Just have Janela rub it in his face, laughing at him, mocking him. And instead of doing the 10 tests of MJF, I think if you do it with Janela, it would make more sense where, Janela would book his spring break and his Lost in New York events, and he would bring in these kind of older wrestlers. So that's your bringing in Juventud Guerrera, like he'd have access to that. Bringing in Nick Gage for a death match with Jericho would make more sense. It'd be cool if maybe he brought in like PCO or Hakushi was a guy he worked with. I think that would have been a cool little aspect of it. And then just basically make Jericho go through the test to get to Janela. And if you look at Janela's time in AEW, I think that the match he had with Moxley at the main event of Fighter Fest when they first started was really good. He had good matches with Kenny Omega. And then you talked about the Iron Man match with Nick Wayne. So I think he's an underrated in-ring worker, and I think him and Jericho could have had like really cool, good matches and a cool storyline where they kind of played off each other and just built up this old school, new school party boy, bad boy of wrestling idea.
When you're explaining this fantasy booking, I see that you definitely were right about this money idea. Something that I also like, and I'm picking up on it, made me think of how awesome the MVP and Matt Hardy feud was back in the SmackDown days when they were challenging each other in like basketball,
Yeah,
and that's what it's like. That's what they could do with the partying atmosphere. You could even maybe do a cinnamon challenge where it's like,
yeah,
just have some fun vignettes that makes the feud interesting, leading to a match. And both character gimmicks I like a lot too. They play into each other. This aging rock star, young
yeah,
fuckboy. There's there's comedy gold there, and it's a way to really establish Joey Janela as a character, and you keep him going forward on TV. And I feel like this might be a feud. Recently, I was seeing on Reddit about how Jericho has feuds that stall out wrestlers. MJF's feud stalled him out. Currently, Hook feels stalled out in a feud with Jericho. They were complaining about the Orange Cassidy feud. It felt like Orange Cassidy was on the rise, then he just gets stalled out with Jericho. I feel like with Janela, the feud, especially the way you're booking it, sets Janela up for a run, sets him up for a rise, sets him up, establishes him, and keeps him moving forward. Where the other guys, I do feel like they plateau a little bit during the feud. They get stale, they get boring. With Janela, this idea of them seeing who can outparty the other one,
yeah.
having wrestling matches, feuds, it's just better TV.
And then like I also think would benefit Jericho because I think the singing and dancing thing with MJF, I just feel like that doesn't fit Jericho to me. Where if you're like, oh, you can't party, you can't drink, you can't rock, like I feel like Jericho would get offended more by that and
Yeah,
want to prove that. And then you could do cool things where like maybe when Fozzie's on tour, maybe a couple times Janela's like with a bullhorn booing him or comes on stage, or you know how Jericho had the bubbly, the bottle of champagne,
yeah,
like let Janela have like some Mad Dog or something,
yeah.
like something different.
His White Claw stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something. Yeah, that he could play off of too, and it's like, oh, that's old. We're drinking White Claws out
yeah.
here, old man, like stuff like that. And it kind of put it. I feel like it would raise both of them to where you wouldn't be sick of Jericho, and then like you said, it gives Janela that push that I feel he deserves.
You could even do stuff with locker room leader type stuff. Janela would make that very funny.
Yeah,
What they have to put young wrestlers court. Impact had funny segments about that. Those two dudes doing a wrestlers court would be hilarious.
or even if you wanted to, like how Jericho had the Jericho. I'm drawing a blank on what it was, where it was his security guards. He had like Ralphus and he had the Jericho Ninja,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Like when he wants his rematch with Janela, you could have Janela have like a Janela security force
Yeah,
where it's a different fat guy and a different, like the Janela Ninja. Basically, just rip off like everything Jericho did.
yeah, with success.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, and the thing is like it's not so far fetched to think that Tony could have done this because, well, character wise, story wise, it makes sense. And also, you did hype up Janela when you signed him.
right.
You did have him in feuds with, well, not necessarily feuds, but good matches with Moxley, with Kenny Omega, two studs. And then it's like,
Nothing.
yeah,
Like I said, he used him for clout. He was at the press conference when they announced All Elite Wrestling. There was Cody Rhodes, the Elite, Chris Jericho, and Joey Janela. It's like, and you could have that could have been your way into the feud where Janela's like, "Hey, I was at the press conference too. Like, you're not the only star around
yeah.
here."
His unsanctioned match with Kenny Omega was on the YouTube show.
Yeah, it was on
That
Dark or whatever.
Yeah, so that shows they were utilizing him to. They knew he had a fan base.
Clicks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they knew that he could get attention for that on the internet.
Yep. And he main evented that pay per view with
Fighter
Moxley.
Fest, yeah,
Yeah.
with Moxley, and he was like riding a huge momentum wave coming into AEW. I would see him on the top 15 post on Reddit
Oh yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
So like people were in love with him on the internet, and then Tony Khan, in essence, fucked on him because it was
Yeah,
not
he
good.
basically gave up on him. And I think too, if you look at the blood and guts where Jericho fell off the cage and there was like a cardboard crash pad and it looked really bad, You could have done that, and Janela would have took the bump, and there wouldn't have been a
Yeah,
cardboard crash pad.
yeah, he
So at
would
least
have.
they would have got something cool out of it.
All right, so we talked about our love with Joey Janela. We said a booking idea that I think prints money, and it really does Joey Janela justice. In the comments, let us know if you feel like this was a missed opportunity, or like if Joey Janela's whole run in AEW was a missed opportunity, and how you thought maybe Tony Khan could have booked him where he could have found the success that he. I mean, clearly the dude is good. I wish he would go to TNA Impact because I think then he could gain all his attention back
Yeah.
in there. For whatever reason, he's not in TNA though.
And if Janela was still in AEW, we could have got reports after the All In brawl with Jack Perry and CM Punk about how Janela got in Punk's face afterwards
Yeah,
and stood up to him like how Jericho claims he did to Brock Lesnar.
yeah. Joey would have actually done it though.
Maybe, yeah. Just him claiming that though, like basically stealing another Jericho gimmick would have been cool.